My name is Eleanor. I am 24 years old, and I live in a small apartment in the city. I've been sending you $1,500 a month for rent, my grandfather said clearly. He put down his wine glass and looked at me across the Thanksgiving table with a kind smile. He thought he was just making conversation. He thought we shared a secret gratitude. But the room went dead silent. The only sound was the clock ticking on the wall. My fork hovered halfway to my mouth. I felt like the air had been sucked out of the dining room. I looked at him, completely confused. "Grandpa, what are you talking about?" I asked. My voice shook. "The money, Eleanor," he said. "For 5 years, since you got sick, I send it to your mother every single month. It is for your rent and your medicine. I wanted to make sure you were safe." I looked at my mother. She was staring at her mashed potatoes, her face completely white. My father wouldn't look at me at all. He was sweating. My stomach twisted into a knot. For 5 years, I lived in a freezing basement apartment. I ate instant noodles for dinner. I walked 5 miles to work in the snow because I couldn't afford a car. I begged my parents for help when I was sick, and they told me they had nothing to give. They lied. They stole 5 years of my life while I suffered. And now, everyone was going to know. But before I tell you how everything flipped, like and subscribe, drop a comment. Where are you watching from? My name is Eleanor. I am 24 years old. I stared at my mother. I waited for her to look at me. I wanted her to make eye contact. I wanted her to explain why I had spent the last 5 years deciding between heating my apartment or buying antibiotics. But she wouldn't look up. She kept moving the peas around on her plate with a silver fork. My father cleared his throat. It was a loud, wet sound in the quiet room. He put his napkin on the table and tried to smile at his father. It was a fake smile. It didn't reach his eyes. "Dad," my father said. His voice was too high. It sounded tight. "You know how Eleanor is. We discussed this years ago. You remember, don't you?" My grandfather frowned. He did not look happy. He looked confused. "Discussed what, Robert? I told you to give the money to her, direct deposit, every month." "Well, yes," my father said quickly. He started talking faster. "But we decided it was better to manage it for her. You know, she has been very sick. She wasn't in a right state of mind to handle that kind of cash. She is young. She is irresponsible with money. We didn't want her to waste it on frivolous things." I felt my face get hot. I felt a burning sensation in my chest. Irresponsible. I thought about my bank account. I had $12 in it right now. I thought about the winter boots I was wearing. They were 3 years old. The sole on the left one was coming loose. I had glued it back together with superglue before coming to this dinner. I did that because I couldn't afford a cobbler. I certainly couldn't afford new boots. "Managed it?" my grandfather asked. He leaned forward. "So, you have the money. You are saving it for her," my mother finally spoke. She looked at my grandfather, not me. "Of course, Dad, it's in a trust, sort of. We use it to pay for things she needs. We just didn't want to overwhelm her. She gets confused so easily." She looked at me then. Her eyes were hard. It was a warning look. It was the same look she gave me when I was a child and I wanted to cry in public. It meant, "Shut up, don't say a word." "Eleanor," my mother said to me. Her voice was sweet, but it felt fake. "You know we help you. Remember when we bought you those groceries last year? And when we helped with your phone bill that one time?" I remembered. I remembered it very clearly. I had called them crying because I had the flu and no food. My mother had sighed on the phone. She said I was a burden. She dropped off 2 bags of generic groceries, pasta, rice, some canned soup, and left them on my porch. She didn't even come inside to see if I was okay. That was the help she was talking about. That cost maybe $40. Grandpa said he sent $1,500 every month for 5 years. I did the math in my head. My hands started to shake under the table. That was $90,000. My grandfather looked at me. "Eleanor," he said softly, "is this true? Do they manage your money? Do they pay your rent?" I opened my mouth to speak, but my throat felt dry. My heart was pounding against my ribs. I looked at the crystal chandelier above the table. I looked at the roasted turkey that was getting cold. I looked at the expensive wine in the glasses. They bought me groceries once," I said. My voice was small. "See," my father said loudly. He clapped his hands together once. "We take care of her, she just forgets. Her illness, you know. It affects her memory." My grandfather didn't blink. He kept his blue eyes on my father. He wasn't smiling anymore. The kindness was gone from his face. He looked like a businessman now. He looked like the man who built a company from nothing. Robert, my grandfather said, you are sweating. My father wiped his forehead with the napkin. It's just warm in here, Dad, the oven, you know. It isn't warm, my grandfather said. It is actually quite cool. And Eleanor is wearing a coat inside the house. Eleanor, why are you wearing your coat? I looked down. I hadn't taken my coat off because the sweater underneath had a hole in the elbow. I was ashamed of it. I'm cold, Grandpa, I said. She's always cold, my mother said quickly. Poor circulation, it's part of her condition. My grandfather turned his head slowly to look at my mother. $1,500 a month, he repeated. That pays for a very nice apartment with good heating. That pays for a car. That pays for good food. Why does my granddaughter look like she is starving, Martha? My mother dropped her fork. It clattered loudly against the china plate. She doesn't eat, my mother cried out. We try so hard, she just refuses to take care of herself. They were lying. They were lying about everything. And for the first time in my life, I realized they weren't just mean. They were thieves. The air in the dining room felt heavy. It felt like a storm was coming. The smell of the turkey and stuffing made me feel sick. I pushed my plate away a few inches. My parents were panicking. I could see it. My father poured himself more wine. His hand was shaking so much that a few drops of red wine spilled onto the white tablecloth. It looked like blood. We only did what was best, my mother said. She put her hand on her chest. She looked like she was about to cry. Dad, you have to understand, Eleanor has been difficult, very difficult since she left home. My grandfather cut her off. Left home? Yes, my father said. He jumped on the excuse. When she ran away, 5 years ago, she just packed a bag and left. She said she hated us. She said she never wanted to see us again. We were heartbroken, Dad. We were absolutely crushed. I stared at him. My mouth fell open slightly. We didn't tell you the details because we didn't want to worry you, my mother added. She reached out and touched my grandfather's arm. We told you she was sick and needed help. That was true. But we didn't tell you that she abandoned us. She chose this life. She chose to live in squalor to punish us. But we still wanted to help her, my father said. So when you offered the money, we took it. We put it aside. We were waiting for her to come back to her senses. We were waiting for her to come home. My grandfather pulled his arm away from my mother. He looked at me. Is that what happened, Eleanor? Did you run away? I shook my head. No, I whispered. She doesn't remember, my mother said loudly. Her voice was shrill now. She blocks out the bad parts. It's a coping mechanism. My grandfather stood up. He was an old man, over 80, but he stood up straight. He looked powerful. Stop it, he said. His voice wasn't loud, but it stopped my parents instantly. Stop talking, both of you. He looked at my father. 5 years ago you called me. It was late at night. You were crying, Robert. You told me Eleanor was sick. You told me she had a medical condition and she couldn't work. You said she was living on the street. You said you had no money to help her because of the business. You begged me. You said, Dad, please save my little girl. My father turned pale. He looked like a ghost. I sent the check the next morning, my grandfather said, and I set up the monthly transfer. I told you specifically, make sure she is safe. Make sure she is warm. And now you tell me she ran away. She did, my father insisted. Enough. My grandfather slammed his hand on the table. The silverware jumped. Something is wrong here. I can smell it. I look at this house. I see the new kitchen. I see the new floors. He pointed out the window to the driveway. I see a brand new SUV out there, a luxury car. You told me the business was struggling, Robert. You told me you were barely scraping by. We are, my mother said. That car is. It's a lease. It's for the company. And Eleanor looks like a beggar, my grandfather said. He said the word brutally. Beggar. It hurt to hear it, but it was true. I looked poor because I was poor. She is wearing shoes with glue on them. I saw it when she walked in. Do you think I am blind? My parents didn't answer. They just looked at each other. They were trying to come up with a new lie. They were trying to coordinate their story without speaking. I asked for updates, my grandfather said. Every month when I sent the money, I asked, how is Eleanor? And you sent me emails. You said, she is doing better. She loves the new apartment. She is eating well. She sends her love. He looked at me. Did you ever send your love, Eleanor? Did you ever write me a letter? I wrote you birthday cards, I said softly. And Christmas cards, every year. I never got them, my grandfather said. I felt a tear slide down my cheek. I had written those cards. I put so much effort into them. I couldn't afford gifts, so I wrote long letters inside the cards. I told him about my life. I told him I was struggling, but I never asked for money. I just wanted him to know I loved him. They must have gotten lost in the mail, my mother stammered. 5 years of mail, my grandfather asked. Lost? The postal service is terrible these days, my father said weakly. It was pathetic, it was so obvious. They had intercepted my letters. They probably threw them in the trash the moment they arrived. They couldn't let my grandfather see them. If he saw my handwriting, if he read my words, he might call me. And if he called me, he would find out about the money. They had kept us apart. They made sure I felt abandoned by him, and they made sure he thought I was doing fine. They built a wall of lies between us so they could keep the cash. My younger sister, Jessica, had been quiet this whole time. She was sitting across from me. She was 22 years old. She looked perfect. Her hair was shiny and professionally colored. Her nails were done. She was wearing a beautiful cashmere sweater that probably cost $300. She put down her fork and let out a loud sigh. She rolled her eyes. "Oh my God," Jessica said. "Can we please stop this drama? It is Thanksgiving." "This is not drama," my grandfather said. "This is theft." Jessica laughed. It was a cold, cruel sound. "Theft, Grandpa, be serious. Mom and Dad didn't steal anything. They used the money to keep this family afloat. Do you have any idea how expensive everything is?" She looked at me with pure disgust. "And honestly, Eleanor, you should be grateful. If they gave you that money, what would you have done with it? You would have wasted it." "I would have paid rent," I said. "I would have bought food." "Please," Jessica scoffed. "You're a mess. You always have been. You're sick, you're emotional, you can't hold down a real job. Mom and Dad handle everything for us. They deserve that money more than you do. Look at you." She gestured at me with her hand. On her wrist, a gold bracelet glittered. It was thick and heavy. I looked at the bracelet. I recognized the brand. It was the kind of jewelry my mother liked to buy. "That's a nice bracelet," I said quietly. Jessica covered it with her other hand quickly, then stopped. She glared at me. "So what? It was a birthday gift." "From Mom and Dad?" I asked. "Yes," she snapped. "Because I'm a good daughter. I didn't run away. I stayed here. I went to college. I made them proud." "You went to college," my grandfather repeated. "Robert, you told me Jessica got a full scholarship. You bragged about it for months." My father looked at his plate. She got a partial scholarship. We had to cover the rest." "With what money?" my grandfather asked. Jessica answered for him. She didn't seem to care anymore. She was angry. "With the family money. Who cares where it came from? It's all the same pot, isn't it? Why does Eleanor get special treatment just because she has some sob story? I needed tuition. I needed a car to get to classes. I needed clothes for internships. That's an investment." She looked at me. "You're just a black hole, Eleanor. You suck up energy and resources. You should be happy Mom and Dad didn't just kick you to the curb completely." I felt a crack inside my heart. I used to love Jessica. When we were little, I braided her hair. I read her stories. I protected her from bullies. I realized now that she knew the whole time. "You knew," I said. I looked her right in the eyes. "You knew Grandpa was sending money for me." "Everyone knew," Jessica spat out. "Except you, because you're stupid." "Jessica," my mother hissed, "be quiet." "No," Jessica stood up. "I'm tired of tiptoeing around her." "Yes, Eleanor. We knew. We got new furniture. We went to Hawaii last year. Remember? We told you we were going to visit Aunt Linda in Ohio. We went to Maui. It was amazing. And we paid for it with the money because we deserve to be happy. We deal with your drama all the time." I sat very still. Hawaii. They went to Hawaii. That same week, my electricity had been turned off. I sat in the dark for 3 days. I ate peanut butter from a jar with a spoon because I couldn't cook anything. I called my mother that week. I asked for $50 to turn the lights back on. She told me she was short on cash and that I needed to learn responsibility. She said that while she was sitting on a beach in Maui, drinking cocktails, paid for with money meant for my medicine, my sister wasn't a victim of their lies. She was an accomplice. She was just like them. She was eating the fruit of my suffering, and she thought she deserved it. The betrayal hurt worse than the hunger. It hurt worse than the cold. These were my people. This was my blood, and they looked at me and saw nothing but a checkbook they could cash. I stood up. My chair scraped loudly against the hardwood floor. Everyone stopped talking. My mother looked terrified. My father looked defeated. Jessica looked annoyed. My grandfather looked at me with deep sadness and expectation. I didn't yell. I didn't throw my glass. My voice was very quiet, but it was steady. I felt a strange calmness wash over me. The secret was out. I had nothing left to lose. I didn't run away, I said. I looked at my grandfather. I wanted him to hear this. I wanted him to know the truth. 5 years ago, I said, I got sick. I was diagnosed with the autoimmune disorder. I was in pain every day. I was tired. I couldn't keep up with my classes at the university. I lost my part-time job because I was in the hospital too much. I looked at my father. I came home. I asked for help. I asked if I could stay in my old room for a few months until I got better, just until the doctors found the right medication. I took a breath. And you said no. My father closed his eyes. You told me I was a burden, I continued. You told me you didn't want a sick person in the house. You said it was depressing. You said I was lazy. You said, if you want to eat, you work. But I couldn't work. I could barely walk. I turned to my mother. It was January. There was snow on the ground. You packed my bags in garbage bags and you put them on the front porch. You locked the door. I knocked for an hour, I cried. I begged you to let me in because it was freezing. Eleanor, please, my mother whispered. Don't do this. I slept in the bus station that night, I said. I had $20 in my pocket. I didn't know where to go. I was 19 years old. I looked at Jessica. You watched from the window. I saw you. You pulled the curtain back and watched me cry. You didn't do anything. Jessica looked away. She crossed her arms over her chest. I didn't run away, I repeated. I was thrown out like garbage. I got a job washing dishes, I said, because they didn't care if I looked sick. I stood in a hot kitchen for 10 hours a day. My legs swelled up so bad I had to cut my socks off at night. I rented a room in a basement with no windows. It had mold on the walls. I breathed that mold for 2 years. I couldn't afford the medicine Grandpa paid for, I said. So I took half doses. I stayed sick longer. I was in pain every single day. There were nights I thought I was going to die. I prayed for help. I called you, Mom. I called you and told you I was hurting. And you told me to pray harder, I said. You told me God was punishing me for being ungrateful. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. I unlocked it and placed it on the table. I have the texts, I said. I never deleted them. Every time I asked for help. Every time you said no. Every time you lied. I looked around the beautiful dining room, the crystal, the silver, the warmth. You remodeled the kitchen, I said, pointing to the marble countertops. That marble cost more than my rent for a year. You bought a new car. You went to Hawaii. You bought Jessica bracelets. You lived like kings, I said, and you did it by standing on my neck. I felt tears in my eyes, but I didn't let them fall. I was done crying for them. You didn't just steal money, I said. You stole my health. You stole 5 years of my life. You stole my trust. I thought I was worthless. I thought I deserved to suffer because my own family didn't love me enough to help me. I thought I was broken. I looked at my grandfather. But I wasn't broken. I was just being robbed. The room was silent. Absolutely silent. My mother was sobbing into her hands now. It was a loud, ugly sound, but it didn't move me. I felt nothing for her tears. She was crying because she was caught, not because she was sorry. My grandfather looked at me. He had tears in his eyes too. He walked around the table. He moved slowly. He came to where I was standing. He didn't say a word. He just pulled me into his arms. He hugged me tight. He smelled like tobacco and peppermint, just like I remembered. He felt safe. I am so sorry, Eleanor, he whispered into my hair. I am so sorry. Then he let go of me and turned to face my parents. His face was like stone. Get the bank records, he said. Now. The room was silent. My grandfather's command to get the bank records hung in the air like smoke. My father was frozen in his chair. He looked pale. He looked like a man who was watching a car crash in slow motion. My mother was wiping her eyes with a napkin, but she wasn't looking at me. She was looking at the floor. I stood up slowly. My legs felt steady. For years, my legs had been weak from sickness and exhaustion, but tonight they felt strong. I looked around the dining room. I really looked at it. For the last 5 years, I had come to this house for holidays, and I had believed their lies. I had believed them when they said they were struggling. I had believed them when they said the business was bad. I had felt guilty for eating their food because I thought they couldn't afford it. But now, the scales fell from my eyes. I saw the truth. The truth was in the furniture. The truth was in the appliances. The truth was in the driveway. I walked over to the kitchen island. It was huge. It was covered in a slab of white marble with gray veins running through it. I ran my hand over the stone. It was cold and smooth. This is Carrara marble, I said. My voice was calm. It didn't sound like my own voice. I remember when you put this in. It was 2 years ago. I came over to do laundry because I didn't have quarters for the laundromat. You told me to be careful not to scratch it. You said it cost a fortune. My mother looked up, her eyes were red. Eleanor, don't, she whispered. It was an investment for the house value. An investment, I repeated. 2 years ago, I had an infection in my tooth. It hurt so bad I couldn't sleep. I cried for 3 nights. I called you, Mom. I asked for $200 to go to the dentist. You told me you didn't have it. You told me to gargle with salt water and tough it out. I tapped my fingers on the cold marble. I lost that tooth. I had to let it rot and fall out because I couldn't pay to fix it. And while I was spitting blood into a sink in a basement, you were picking out this stone. This stone cost $5,000. My tooth cost $200. My father shifted in his chair. We needed to update the kitchen. It was falling apart. The old kitchen was fine, I said. My teeth were falling apart. I walked over to the refrigerator. It was a massive stainless steel beast. It had a touch screen on the door that let you see the weather and your calendar. It made craft ice balls. This fridge, I said. $3,000. You bought it last summer. I remember. You showed it to me. You were so proud of the ice maker. I turned to look at them. Last summer, my electricity was cut off. It was July. It was 90 degrees inside my apartment. The food in my tiny, rusty fridge spoiled. I lost milk, eggs, and cheese. I had nothing to eat for 3 days except dry cereal. I drank warm water from the tap. I sat in the dark and sweated and felt dizzy from hunger. I called you, I said to my father. I asked for $50 to turn the lights back on. You said, we are tight this month, Eleanor. The business is slow. You said that while you were drinking ice water from a $3,000 machine. My father closed his eyes. He couldn't look at me. I believed you, I said. I sat in the dark and I thought, my poor parents. They are struggling too. I shouldn't burden them. I felt sorry for you. I felt selfish for asking. I walked to the window that looked out over the driveway. The outdoor lights were on. They illuminated the black SUV parked there. It was shiny and sleek. It looked like a shark. The car, I said, a brand new SUV, leather seats, heated steering wheel, sunroof, navigation system. You got it 6 months ago. I looked at my grandfather. Grandpa, do you know how I got here today? My grandfather shook his head slowly. He looked sick. No, Eleanor, how? I took the bus, I said. 2 transfers. It took me an hour and a half. And then I walked the last mile from the bus stop in the cold. My boots have holes in them. My socks are wet right now. I pointed at the car. That car costs $60,000. The monthly payment is probably $800. That is more than my rent. You drive that car to the grocery store, you drive it to the mall, and you watch me walk. I looked at my mother. Last winter there was a snowstorm. I was walking to the pharmacy to pick up my medicine. The wind was blowing so hard it hurt my face. The snow was deep. I was trudging through it, freezing, shivering. I saw a car coming. It was that SUV. I saw you driving, Mom. You were wearing your fur coat. You had the heat on. I waved. I waved my arms because I wanted a ride. I just wanted to get out of the snow for 5 minutes. My mother started to sob. I didn't see you. I swear, you looked right at me, I said. We made eye contact. And you looked away. You turned up the radio and you kept driving. You left your sick daughter in a snowstorm because you didn't want to get the leather seats wet. The room was so quiet I could hear the hum of the refrigerator. The luxury of the house felt suffocating now. It wasn't just a house. It was a crime scene. Every nice thing in it was evidence. I turned to my sister, Jessica. She was sitting with her arms crossed, looking angry and defensive. She was wearing diamond stud earrings. And you, I said, the trips, the clothes. I have a job, Jessica snapped. I work at the campus bookstore. You work 10 hours a week, I said. That pays for your coffee. It doesn't pay for Maui. I looked at my parents. Maui, you went for 10 days last year. You told me you were going to visit Aunt Linda in Ohio because she was sick. You lied. You said we have to go help family. But you didn't go to Ohio. You went to Hawaii. How did you know? My mother whispered. Jessica posted the pictures, I said. She blocked me on Instagram, but she didn't block my friend Sarah. Sarah showed me. I saw you. I saw you on the beach. I saw the cocktails. I saw the luau. I was sitting in the hospital waiting room that week, I said. I had a flare-up. My joints were swollen to the size of softballs. I was in so much pain I couldn't breathe. I was waiting for a doctor to see me at the free clinic because I couldn't afford a specialist. I waited for 6 hours on a hard plastic chair. And while I was waiting, I looked at a picture of you getting a massage at a resort. I cried in that waiting room, I said. Not because of the pain, but because I thought you didn't love me. I thought, my parents are so stressed, they need a vacation. I justified it for you. I defended you to myself. I told myself you deserved a break. I laughed. It was a dry, hollow sound. You didn't need a break. You were living like kings. You were spending my rent money on pineapples and rum. I walked back to the table. I picked up a crystal wine glass. It was heavy and expensive. Everything in this room, I said. The curtains, the rug, the china, the silver, it all belongs to me. You bought it with checks that had my name on the memo line. I set the glass down. You told Grandpa you were managing my money. You weren't managing it. You were eating it. You were wearing it. You were driving it. My grandfather stood up. His face was gray. He looked at the room with disgust. He looked at the marble island, the fridge, the view of the car. He saw what I saw now. He saw that his son and daughter-in-law were not just bad with money. They were monsters. They had watched their own child suffer and starve so they could have nicer things. It is disgusting, my grandfather said. His voice was low and dangerous. This house smells like greed. My grandfather reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. His hands were shaking, not from age but from rage. He placed the phone on the table. I am calling the bank, he said. And I am calling my lawyer. Dad, no, my father pleaded. He stood up halfway, then sat back down. It's Thanksgiving night. The banks are closed. Can't we talk about this in the morning? We can explain. There is nothing to explain, my grandfather said. And my private banker, David, will answer my call no matter what time it is. That is what happens when you have integrity, Robert. People respect you. He dialed the number. He put it on speaker. The ringing sound filled the room. Ring, ring, ring. Everyone held their breath. My mother was chewing on her fingernail. My sister was staring at the table. My father was wiping sweat from his upper lip. Hello, sir? A man's voice came through the speaker. This is David. Is everything all right? Hello, David, my grandfather said. His voice was steady. I apologize for calling you on the holiday, but this is an emergency. A family emergency regarding finances. Of course, sir. I am at home, but I can log into the secure system. Give me one moment. We waited. The silence was agonizing. I could hear the tapping of a keyboard on the other end of the line. I need you to pull up the records for the monthly transfers I have been sending to Robert's account, my grandfather said. The ones labeled Eleanor support. 5 years of transfers. I have them right here, David said. I need to know the destination of those funds, my grandfather said. Robert claims he put them in a trust for Eleanor. He claims he managed them for her benefit. I need to know if that money ever left his account to go to Eleanor, or a landlord, or a medical facility. Checking now, David said. I am tracing the flow of funds. My father closed his eyes. He knew what was coming. Sir, David said. His voice sounded different now, professional but cold. I am looking at the activity. The transfers from you enter the account on the 1st of every month. $1,500. Within usually 2 or 3 days, the funds are dispersed. Dispersed where? My grandfather asked. They are not transferred to another account, David said. They are spent. Directly from the checking account. Spent on what? I see payments to American Express, David read. I see payments to the BMW dealership. I see a large payment to a contractor called Luxury Home Renovations. I see payments to Island Getaway Travel Agency. I see grocery stores like Whole Foods. Liquor stores, department stores. My grandfather looked at my parents. Do you see any transfers to Eleanor? Any payments for rent in the city? Any medical bills? No, sir, David said. There is zero activity connected to Eleanor. The money is absorbed into the general household spending of Robert and Martha. It appears they treat it as income. Thank you, David, my grandfather said. Please export those statements to a PDF and email them to me immediately. And David, yes, sir. Freeze the transfers, cancel the standing order, do not send another penny to that account. Understood, it is done. My grandfather hung up the phone. The screen went dark. The evidence was irrefutable. It wasn't just a suspicion anymore, it was a documented fact. $90,000, my grandfather said. He said the number slowly. He looked at my mother. You spent $90,000 of my money meant to keep your daughter alive on yourself. My mother burst into tears. Real, ugly tears this time. We didn't mean to, it started small, we borrowed the first month because we were short on the mortgage, and we meant to pay it back. But then we got used to it. It was just money sitting there, and Eleanor was doing fine. I was not doing fine, I shouted. I was dying, my mother flinched. I was sick, I yelled. I was hungry, I was cold. How can you say I was doing fine? You knew I wasn't, I told you, I begged you for help. We thought you were exaggerating, my mother screamed back. You were always so dramatic, we thought you just wanted attention. So you bought a car? I asked. You thought I was dramatic, so you went to Hawaii. We deserved a life too, my mother said. She was hysterical now. We raised you, we fed you for 18 years, why shouldn't we have some comfort? Not with my money, I said. Not with the money that was supposed to save me. My grandfather picked up the printed menu my mother had made for the dinner. He flipped it over to the blank side. He took a gold pen from his pocket. Write, he said to me. Write what? I asked. Write down your debts, he said. Write down everything you owe, the things you couldn't pay because they stole from you. I took the pen. My hand shook as I wrote. Credit card debt, groceries/pharmacy. $4,500 student loans, tuition. $8,000 unpaid medical bills. $2,200 dental work needed. $3,000 I did the math. About $18,000, I said. My grandfather took the paper, he looked at it, then he looked at my father. Your daughter is in debt for $18,000, he said. She has holes in her shoes. She has missing teeth. And you have a $60,000 car in the driveway. He folded the paper and put it in his pocket. I have the email from David, my grandfather said. I have the proof. This is fraud. This is embezzlement. And I am not going to let it slide. My father looked up. He looked terrified. Dad, what do you mean? You wouldn't do anything legal, would you? We're family. You stopped being family when you decided to eat your daughter's future, my grandfather said. You are criminals, and I am going to treat you like criminals. The room felt cold. The warmth of the oven was gone. The smell of the turkey made me nauseous. I looked at my parents and I saw strangers. I saw people who had looked me in the eye for 5 years and lied. They had hugged me at Christmas and lied. They had watched me lose weight and lied. They were not my parents. They were parasites. And now the light was shining on them, and they had nowhere to hide. My father put his head in his hands. He let out a long, ragged breath. The fight had left him. He knew there was no way to spin this. The bank records were in my grandfather's inbox. The lies were dead. I'm sorry, my father whispered. It was a small sound. It was pathetic. I'm sorry, he said again, louder. Eleanor, I am so sorry. We lost our way. We got greedy. It was so easy. The money just came in every month. It felt like a paycheck. We didn't think about it. You didn't think about me, I said. You didn't think about me when I was sleeping in a coat because I couldn't afford heat. I know, he said. He was crying now. I know, I am a weak man. I am a terrible father. My mother was not apologizing. She was panicking. She was pacing back and forth in front of the window. What are we going to do? She cried. Dad, please, you can't sue us. It will ruin us. The scandal. Our friends will know. The club will know. My grandfather laughed. It was a harsh, barking sound. The club, you are worried about the country club. Martha, you are going to lose this house. You are going to lose that car. You are going to be lucky if you don't go to jail. Jail? My mother stopped pacing. Her face went white. You wouldn't put your own son in jail. I would put a thief in jail, my grandfather said. And that is what you are. Jessica stood up. She looked from my parents to my grandfather. She realized the gravity of the situation. Her comfortable life was dissolving. Grandpa, wait, she said. Her voice was high and scared. What about me? I have tuition due in January. I have my sorority dues. I have my car insurance. My grandfather turned to her. You are an adult, Jessica. You are 22. But I'm in school, she said. Mom and Dad pay for everything. Not anymore, my grandfather said. Mom and Dad are broke. Mom and Dad are going to be paying Eleanor back for the next 10 years. But that's not fair, Jessica screamed. She stamped her foot like a child. Why do I have to suffer because of this? I didn't steal the money. You ate the food, I said. You went on the trips. You wore the clothes. You benefited from the theft, Jessica. You knew I was struggling. You mocked me for it. You called me a loser. You called me a mess. And all the while you were living on my money. I didn't know, she lied. You knew, I said. You said earlier that everyone knew. You said I was stupid for not knowing. Jessica shut her mouth. She glared at me with pure hatred. She didn't care about justice. She only cared that her free ride was over. You are on your own, Jessica, my grandfather said. I suggest you get a job or a student loan, like Eleanor did. My grandfather walked to the coat rack in the hallway. He put on his heavy wool coat. He picked up his hat. Then he picked up my coat, the thin, cheap coat with the frayed cuffs. He held it out to me. "Put this on, Eleanor," he said gently. "We are leaving." I walked over to him. I slipped my arms into the coat. It wasn't warm enough for the November night, but I felt warm inside. I felt a fire burning in my chest. It was the fire of vindication. "Dad, please," my father stood up. He reached out a hand. "Don't leave like this. Let's sit down. Let's make a plan. I can pay it back. I can take out a second mortgage." "You can't take out a mortgage on a house you bought with stolen funds," my grandfather said. "And I don't want to sit down with you. I don't want to look at you." He opened the front door. The cold air rushed in. It smelled like dead leaves and rain. It felt clean. "You have broken my heart, Robert," my grandfather said. "I trusted you to take care of your child. It is the one job a father has. And you failed. You didn't just fail, you preyed on her." He took my hand. His grip was strong. "Come on, Ellie," he said. We walked out of the house. I heard my mother wailing in the hallway. I heard Jessica screaming at my father. I heard the sounds of their world collapsing. But I didn't look back. I walked down the brick path. I walked past the $60,000 SUV. I walked past the manicured lawn. I got into my grandfather's old sedan. It smelled like peppermint and old leather. It was a humble car, but it was honest. My grandfather started the engine. He didn't say anything for a long time. He just drove. We drove away from the big house, away from the lies, away from the pain. Finally, he reached over and patted my hand. "I am going to fix this, Eleanor," he said. "I promise you, I am going to make them pay back every cent. And I am going to make sure you never have to be cold again." I looked out the window at the passing streetlights. For the first time in 5 years, I didn't feel alone. I didn't feel like a victim. I felt like a survivor. And I knew that my life was about to change forever. The next few weeks were a blur of meetings, paperwork, and legal discussions. My grandfather didn't waste any time. He hired a forensic accountant and a ruthless lawyer. He was a man on a mission. We met in a high-rise office building downtown. The table in the conference room was made of dark mahogany. It was covered in stacks of paper. "The case is clear-cut," the lawyer, Mr. Henderson, said. He adjusted his glasses. "We have the transfer records. We have the bank statements from your parents showing the commingling of funds. We have proof that not a single payment was made for your benefit." I sat there, listening. It felt surreal. My parents were being discussed like criminals. "They have requested mediation," Mr. Henderson said. "They want to settle out of court to avoid the public record. They are offering to pay back $50,000 over 10 years. My grandfather slammed his hand on the table. "Absolutely not." "Dad, please," my father said. He was sitting on the other side of the table with a cheap lawyer he had hired. He looked terrible. He had lost 20 pounds. His suit looked too big for him. "We don't have the full amount. If you sue us for everything, we will go bankrupt." "Then go bankrupt," my grandfather said. "You stole $90,000. You will pay back $90,000, plus interest, plus the legal fees for this meeting." "But we'll lose the house," my mother sobbed. She looked old. Her hair wasn't dyed anymore, the gray roots were showing. She looked like the tired, broken woman she really was. "You should have thought of that before you bought the marble countertops," I said. My voice was quiet, but it cut through the room. My mother looked at me. "Eleanor, have mercy," she said. "We are your parents." "You didn't have mercy on me," I said. "When I was sleeping on a mattress on the floor because I couldn't afford a bed frame, where was your mercy? When I was walking to work in the rain, where was your mercy?" The mediation failed. We went to court. It wasn't a long trial. The judge was a stern woman with gray hair. She looked at the bank records. She looked at the photos of my parents' vacations. Then she looked at my medical records, which showed the dates I had gone without treatment due to lack of funds. The contrast was sickening. The judge saw it immediately. "This is a case of egregious breach of trust," the judge said. Her voice echoed in the courtroom. "Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, you had a fiduciary duty to your daughter. You accepted money specifically for her care. Instead, you used it to fund a lavish lifestyle while she lived in poverty." She looked at them with disgust. "It is rare to see such greed within a family. You preyed on your own child's vulnerability." The gavel came down. The judgment was total. My parents were ordered to repay the full $90,000. They were ordered to pay $15,000 in interest. They were ordered to pay my legal fees. They didn't have the money. They had spent it all. So the seizures began. I watched from a distance as their life was dismantled. The house was put up for sale. The for sale sign in the yard felt like a flag of victory. The new kitchen, the new floors, they would all belong to someone else now. My parents had to move out. They rented a small, two-bedroom apartment in a bad part of town. It was ironic. It was the kind of neighborhood they had forced me to live in. The SUV was repossessed. I saw the tow truck take it away. My mother stood in the driveway, crying, watching her status symbol disappear. She had to buy a used car, a 10-year-old sedan with rust on the bumper. Jessica had to drop out of college. She couldn't get a loan because her parents' credit was ruined, and she had no credit of her own. She had to move into the small apartment with my parents. She got a job waitressing at a diner. She sent me a text message calling me a selfish witch. I didn't reply. I just blocked her number. She still blamed me. She didn't understand that she was paying the price for her own entitlement. My father tried to call me once. He left a voicemail. He was crying. "Eleanor, we have nothing," he said. "Please, can you ask Grandpa to stop? We are ruined." I listened to the message. I felt a twinge of sadness, but it passed quickly. They weren't ruined because of me. They were ruined because of their own actions. They had built a castle on sand, and the tide had finally come in. I deleted the voicemail. I didn't call back. I didn't owe them anything. Justice was harsh, but it was fair. They had stolen 5 years of my life. Now they were going to spend the next 10 years paying for it. I am sitting in my new apartment. It is a sunny Saturday morning. The apartment is beautiful. It isn't a mansion, but to me, it feels like a palace. It is on the 3rd floor of a clean building with a security guard. It has big windows that let in the light. I have a real bed now. A queen-sized bed with a memory foam mattress and soft, white sheets. Every night when I lie down, I stretch out my legs and I feel grateful. I sleep through the night. I don't wake up shivering. I walk into my kitchen. It is small, but it is mine. I open the refrigerator. It is full. There are cartons of milk, fresh eggs, spinach, strawberries, chicken, and cheese. I never have to worry about being hungry. I never have to ration my food. I make myself a cup of coffee. I use the fancy machine my grandfather bought me as a housewarming gift. I sit by the window and watch the city below. I am healthy now. That is the biggest change. With the money from the settlement, I went to the best specialists in the city. I got the right diagnosis. I got on the right medication. It wasn't cheap, but I could afford it. Within 3 months, the pain in my joints stopped. The fatigue lifted. I gained weight. My hair started to grow back thick and shiny. I look in the mirror and I recognize myself again. I don't look like a scared, starving victim. I look like a young woman with a future. I went back to school. I am finishing my degree in graphic design. I love it. I am top of my class. I have an internship lined up for the summer. I have friends who don't know about my past, who just know me as Eleanor, the talented designer. My grandfather comes over every Sunday for dinner. It is our tradition. I cook for him. I make roast chicken or lasagna or beef stew. We sit at my small dining table and we talk. We talk about books. We talk about politics. We talk about my classes. We never talk about my parents. We decided to leave them in the past. They are like a bad dream that we both woke up from. We know they are out there, living in their small apartment, working jobs they hate, paying off their debt. But they are not part of our lives. Sometimes I wonder if they miss me. Do they miss their daughter? Or do they just miss the money? I think I know the answer, and that is why I never went back. I have learned a lot in the last year. I learned that family isn't about blood. It is about who shows up for you when you are cold. It is about who feeds you when you are hungry. My parents failed that test. My grandfather passed it. I learned that I am stronger than I thought. I survived 5 years of hell. I walked through the fire and I came out the other side. I am not broken. I am forged. I sip my coffee and look at the blue sky. I feel a sense of deep, quiet power. I have my dignity. I have my freedom. I have a life that is truly mine, paid for with my own resilience and the justice I fought for. The nightmare is over. The sun is shining. And for the first time in my life, I am truly happy.